Right, for the Unit 9 practical, we're going to cover something which is essential to all programming languages, essentially, namely looping and arrays. Looping is the process whereby you will continue doing something until a certain condition is, while a certain condition is satisfied. And arrays are groups of data. Okay, for example, just think that the people in your class. There are 7 people. You could say, and their names are John, Peter, Steve, Sheila, Sue, Jill, and Nigel. And if you those 7 names could be represented in a computer as an array of 7 strings. Okay, so basically that's what an array is, and ultimately that's why computers are powerful. They can process huge numbers of things together and calculate and make inferences from them. So what we're going to be doing now is doing some kind of national lottery number choice, whereby the user presses a submit button and as a consequence gets a list of 6 numbers between 0 and 48, I think. Okay, that's the kind of interface we're going to have. Okay, effectively, much of it is going to be completely static, lucky dip and click the button, but then the list of numbers and the button itself, they're going to be dynamic. So let's go into Visual Studio and let's generate the interface first of all for this. So if I get rid of the properties, bring up the Solution Explorer, right click, add and new item, and I'm going to call this, I can't remember what it's called in the tutorial, but I'm just call it numbers chooser. Okay, and then click add. Okay, and that will create this page numbers chooser. I'm going to go into the design area and I'm going to, let me just remind myself what it looks like. Lucky dip, click the button to get this week's lucky 6 numbers. So I kind of first of all, we're going to have an H1 as you saw before, a large kind of piece of text, open angle bracket H1, lucky dip, and below it I'm going to put inside a paragraph tag, choose your 6 numbers. Okay, it's not, as I'm not following the tutorial exactly at this point, but anyway, there's what it looks like. And remember, below that we have the place where the numbers will appear. So to bring up then the toolbox, and let's drag a label to where the numbers are going to appear, and beneath it we'll put a button, okay, which we will drag by dragging a button. Okay, so there we go. Now buttons, typically we have the word submit in them, so if you right click, choose properties and change the text of the button to say submit, we'll change the text of the label to say nothing at all, because we don't want it to actually appear until you've actually pressed the button. Okay, now then, I can't quite remember what they're actually called, the label and the button, so let's have a look. The label is called Lucky Dip Label and the button is called Lucky Dip Button. So let's call that, go to the ID field of the label, Lucky Dip Label, and the button Lucky Dip Button. Okay, so that's our interface established. Okay, having established our interface, let's go into the source. Okay, now the first thing that we do in the code is establish a global variable. By a global variable meaning a variable which will not only live inside the functions which use it, but will be available all the time as long as this page is open. And that variable is going to be an array of 6 numbers. So let's create our script area, run at equals server. Okay, so let's create our script area, and as I say, first thing we're going to do, we're going to declare our array. Okay, so dim. Now I can't remember what it was actually called, these numbers. So here it is. Look, so dim lucky dip 5 as integer. I'll just go back into that. So dim lucky dip open bracket 5 as integer. Okay. Now what that actually means is create an array of 6 elements because 5 will be its highest. Arrays in Visual Basic and in most programming languages are so-called zero index, meaning they start at 0. So therefore an array of 6 elements starts at 0 and goes up to 5. Okay, so dim lucky dip 5 as integer creates an array of 6 elements with 5 being the highest. Okay, so that's that bit sorted. Now then, the next thing to do is we have to write a function which is going to give us 6 integers essentially. So how are we going to do that? 6 integers between 1 and 49. So let's go on to that next.